Hi, you are listening to Baachu Talk, a podcast for government services professionals. My name is Bhaskar, and I will be sitting down with our government services leaders to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn all about their values and collective impact in our society. Today's guest is Samantha Ulyatt. Sam has over 20 years experience working in procurement or commercial roles across several industries and has worked for Ciba Geigy, Astra Zeneca, E.ON, United Utilities, Babcock International. She has focused her spend area across infrastructure projects and has a passion for leading workable commercial solutions while upskilling and allowing people to reach their full potential. Sam joined the civil service in 2016 and will be leaving her role in Crown Commercial Services at the end of June, where she has led the buildings pillar, which incorporates facilities management, property, ancillaries, utilities, and fuel. She has introduced category strategies to a cross-government initiative and more recently led the procurement of the largest construction framework in UK, which has addressed many of the sector leading principles and managed an annual spend portfolio of £3 billion. She will take up the position of Chief Commercial Officer for the Home Office and will be based in Manchester. In this role, she will seek to provide excellent commercial service across the Home Office. Sam lives in Cheshire with a family and enjoys walking, especially with the dog. During the lockdown period, she has managed to run and reach the distance of 10K, something she never thought she would be able to. Welcome, Sam, to Baachu Talk. Great to have you with me.
Oh, thank you very much, Bhaskar. Really lovely for you to invite me here.
Sam, let's go back to the very beginning, Sam. Where were you born and your primary school and secondary school? Let's touch.
Okay. Yeah, so I was born in a little Cheshire village called Knutsford. Most people know it from the motorway service station, but I wasn't born in the motorway service station. I was born in a small cottage hospital. I lived in Knutsford. My grandma lived at the back of me at those times. And then I moved when I was 7 from Knutsford to Timperley. And I was educated in Timperley and Altrincham and around that area.
Oh, got you. So you've always been in Cheshire, Sam?
I've always been in Cheshire. Yes. I have ventured out of Cheshire as a county. I've been to many countries and many counties in the UK as well, but home is Cheshire for me.
Oh, that's beautiful, Sam. And from the school, Sam, where did you do your university, colleges and stuff?
So I went to the University of Salford and studied business and finance there. And I studied part-time because my first job was Ciba Geigy, and I worked while I was studying there as well. And then I moved from Ciba Geigy, and after I'd finished at Salford Uni, I went travelling, and what was now my husband, it was my boyfriend at the time, and then when I came back, I worked at Astra Zeneca, and then obviously moved on to E.ON, UU, and then Babcock, and then government's where I am now.
Oh, wow. So your first job, what was the job at...
Ciba Geigy. So I was at what you'd call, I suppose, a typical sort of apprenticeship. So I started life in the early stages, and I would absolutely be a massive supporter of that. I got the opportunity to work with some fantastic people, some fantastic leaders, and I was exposed to every department, and I just think it gave me an overall fantastic grounding to be able to understand what logistics meant and did. To understand warehousing, to understand the practicalities of doing stock checks, to understand marketing and sales and process engineering and lots of different elements within that. So I think it gave me a great grounding and a great introduction and to understand business as a whole.
Brilliant, Sam. And from AstraZeneca, E.ON and United Utilities, Sam, is that where you entered the world of procurement and spends?
I actually chose procurement mainly at Ciba Geigy. So as I moved around, and probably a rarity that I didn't sort of stumble across procurement. I did stumble across it, but then I consciously chose it, and consciously chose procurement because I just feel that procurement and commercial is an area of which plays to my strength, which gives you real strategic vision across a business and has the ability to actually bring the best of the internal parts of the business and the external parts, and you act as that glue. And when it really works well as a procurement professional, you're able to really bring those together, and contracting is what that does. I've always had a real interest for the legalities, and I have a real interest for fairness as well. And I think that those two skill sets, maketh a good commercial person.
Wow, yes, Sam, 100%, Sam. What an interesting foundation that you had. Sam, over the years, Sam, you have, before moving into civil service, Sam, the industry that you supported, pharma, Eon, energy and utilities,
Yeah.
Babcock, which is much more defense nuclear. Was
Yes.
there similarity in the way procurement works across the industries, Sam?
I think it is different, yes, but I think the fundamentals behind a good procurement is knowing exactly what it is that you want. What does success look like? Or not necessarily knowing what you want, but knowing where you want it to be. I think sometimes a bad procurement can actually be being too prescriptive in what you want, because actually you take that so far, you actually iron out any great ideas, you iron out innovation, and you don't allow the experts within the supply chain to actually bring you some challenge. I do genuinely believe that some of the best contracts, whether it be in pharma, whether that be in energy, whether that be in the water sector, have been those contracts that have allowed the supply chain to come up with a solution, or come up with a solution jointly. I'm not a great advocate of that. We have to fix everything. So I think the specification is absolutely key, and really spending time and challenging with that. The other thing that I would really passionately take away is the collaboration of different disciplines and the respect of different disciplines as well. I think it's really important that the discipline of procurement and commercial is considered around that table as much as all the other professions. Because it actually allows the person to think about the procurement of those goods first, whereas maybe other professions, they can do it, absolutely, but it probably comes secondary or third tier in its thinking. And what we're doing is moving and shaping markets, and really sort of kicking the ball at the back of the net in some of these procurements.
Wow, Sam, what my world of procurement is always, because I only saw procurement from the outside, Sam, or spend or some, so it's always about, rebates and discounts and stuff. But it's fascinating to just see, how you have this ethos of, collaboration, fairness, and also having this detailed quality specs and stuff, Sam. So have you ever gone through that sort of things of, when you position efficiencies as part of procurement, Sam, how do you kind of convey that message of, yes, it's related to efficiencies, but it also beyond efficiency, Sam?
Yeah, and I think that's where it comes about. You get efficiencies which hit bottom line, which absolutely you need to show that value, but the value expands so much more, and so much into that sort of total cost of what it is you actually are procuring. And the total cost of that, when you relate that to elements within infrastructure, could come not just at cost, but also in relation to time. And I think sometimes it's knowing what's important. It can come in relation to quality. So it's about actually not building things that are too big a quality or too less a quality, actually building them fit for purpose. And I think that definition of fit for purpose is something that I think has been around certainly from the early stages of my career, and is still around now. And I think that having that fit for purpose sort of words in your mind when you are buying whatever that might mean is really important to remind yourself of that sometimes, because what I do see is where budgets are expanded, or budgets are sort of getting too large, is maybe the purpose is constantly being repurposed and rechanged. And I think you need to get back to the basics and understand fit for purpose, not in a legal term, but actually in terms of what you're procuring.
Well said, Sam, well said. Successful career in the industry, Sam. Do you have any memorable projects or anything, Sam?
I think a couple of projects probably stem to life. I think overall, sort of memorable projects would be, some of the work that was done across the sort of gas turbines at E.ON, and the working across the sort of European nature, not just from a UK point of view, but from Germany, from Holland, from Sweden, effectively, and being able to work in a sort of multicultural way. And coming at it in a very different way, but actually having a common purpose. And I think projects like that really do shape you, and really do shape your thinking of how you end up with a result. And I think one of the things to take away from that I would, as a leadership piece, is that teams that bring difference absolutely end up with much, much better results. And I know there's been lots of books read on that, but my practical experience would say that having done a number of projects, I would say every time they're the projects that are more memorable, they're the ones that come to the forefront of mind, and they're the ones that I look back on and try and emulate again and again. And a practical example of that is probably within the water industry itself, when my time at UU, which was about procuring an AMP period within the water sector. So not only just procuring it, but also then managing that and leading that, and the performance of that commercially over a 6-year term period, and actually ending up after 5 years with the vision of being in a much better place and enabling the business to be in a much better place than before and after. So if you were to look at the photographs of before and after, and that's what I believe that great procurement and great commercial professionals do, is they make that after photograph. Not quite sure how it's going to look sometimes, not quite sure if it's going to be that great after picture, but actually when you look back, I think it's really important to recognise that.
What triggered your move to the civil service, Sam?
I think my decision to join the civil service as came at a time in my career of great sort of self-reflection, and what is important to me, what is the difference that I want to make within my career, and what's the legacy really that you want to lead, and also support the next generation and people, and how can I do that in the best way. And when I look around at organisations, for me it's about the values that the organisation has, and how I can actually perform at my best, is being true to the values and being true to who I am. And I think the civil service and the values that the civil service holds hugely emulate and resonate with me. I care, and I truly believe that the civil service cares, and therefore it's important from a leadership point of view that caring is obviously then emulated from a professional point of view in order to be able to deliver a great service to the UK.
We all have perception of what the civil service is, Sam, but breaking this down into care, and we are here to care. It's
yeah. I think the civil service, which probably hadn't really highlighted to me before, is the constant in the UK. So ministers do come and go, governments do come and go, but the constant is the civil servants, and they're the ones that from what I see, absolutely work tirelessly in supporting and enabling as much as possible. And I think that's until you actually probably are part of the civil service, I'd certainly say it's not something that I'd ever really recognised until I'm fortunate enough to be sat where I am today.
Wow, definitely, Sam, definitely. I think if any one of our listeners is considering to apply for civil service, what suggestions would you give them, Sam?
I would say if you want to make a difference and that you want to create the society and have the ability and recognition across 18 different departments. The civil service is just a great forum to be able to be yourself, most importantly, to be true to yourself and deliver some great things within the civil service, and to look back and to be proud of those things.
Wow, Sam. I would definitely consider applying myself, Sam.
You should.
Thank you, Sam. Sam, 2016, you started in civil service. The role that you currently, which you're about to leave, Sam, 5 years, is it the same role that you started, Sam, or how did the role evolve over the 5 years?
Yes. So I joined in November 2016 after leaving Babcock, and the role was around the buildings pillar, which probably at the time lacked an element of identity of what it was and what it wasn't. And I think one of the things that I've brought to the role is bring identity and purpose, and given it direction, and actually joined the pillar up, and hugely integrated that within the wider CCS offering and solution. So I think it's really important that the likes of energy and facilities management and construction are thought about as one. And I think with my private sector background, it's probably no secret to why those things really emulate with me, and the importance of having those three together. And it was just something that I just think as a collective, there was too much sort of siloed thinking in terms of the procurement of how those three things were sort of done separately. And actually, I think what my role has done is be able to bring those together, and to really get procurement that really consider the whole life cost, rather than just a siloed one-off procurement.
Wow, Sam, that's three important subdivisions around the building, Sam. So, Sam, just take a step back and then say, what does Crown Commercial Services do on behalf of governments?
So, Crown Commercial Service, it delivers common goods and services, and it was created to do that, and that in itself was to create, better efficiencies, smarter buying, better commercial solutions, in order to bring about not just better deals and prices for common goods and services, but better intelligence for the markets that those common goods and services operate in, and also to create and be the voice of certain sectors. So within Crown Commercial Service, there is 4 pillars. There's buildings, people, technology and corporate, and under that is 70 category areas of spend. And we have 70 teams of category experts, all who have come from various different backgrounds, a mixture of civil service as well as private sector, who are leading category experts within their fields. And that is there for the whole of the civil service to lean on, to support, and to ask for advice and help. Not everybody knows how to, do an FM call-off. Not everybody knows how to do a construction contract. But actually, by coming to CCS, it allows government professionals to buy, to buy better and to buy smarter, and to try and join up some of the capacity issues that exist in the market, and to make government a more intelligent client.
Yes, Sam. And what departments does CCS support, Sam? Is it central government bodies or
CCS supports all departments, I'd call them all 18 government departments, but also far-reaching, to all your local authorities, up to your Ministry of Defence, MOJ, and uniquely, all those, local government, DH, NHSI, trusts, policing, and anything that has got government spent money, CCS can support.
Wow. Sam, how much does the government spend on an annual basis, Sam? There are so many numbers that's floating around in the market.
Yeah, I would say on common goods and services, if you were to sort of pitch yourself around the sort of 90 billion, around that target for common goods and services, you're not far away from that piece. And CCS, just to give you some sort of context behind that, last year the spend on an annual basis was 18.1 billion. So that gives you some sort of context, and that's across 70 category areas of spend. So some really big, scary numbers. When the sort of average person on the street is listening to those numbers, and surely it makes sense, for those numbers to be set, to be spent in the most effective and efficient way they possibly can, with the expertise and the right commercial solutions behind them.
Yes, Sam, I think from the numbers that you just mentioned, looks like 25 to 30% of the overall government spend for now is being managed by CCS. And I'm sure, as we kind of consolidate the spread, and rightly said, if you, rather than to try to reinvent the wheel across local regions, across different things, it's been done in the past. Let's try to replicate what's already been done in a better way.
Absolutely. And it doesn't mean that, it has to be, or, please be rest assured that actually a local council may have completely different needs to a central government department. And the key is to actually build products that give the agility and give those various differences to be respected, but also an operating environment. And that's what the commercial solutions are, is to be able to give a platform and an environment to be able to commercially operate in. And then the various different needs, which can be various different social needs, economic needs, because social value is a really key item to how we procure, and that needs to be coming far more at the forefront of what we do moving forward.
Brilliant, Sam. And Sam, in Crown Commercial Services, Sam, I think framework is a preferred model. There is lots of framework, marketplace. What are some of the frameworks that's currently being done in CCS, Sam? And how do you come out with these frameworks, Sam?
So I think if I talk you through the process, so I talked before around sort of 70 category areas, and those 70 category areas have category plans that are attributed to those areas. So if I take my own area, of construction, for example, a category plan for construction of how that sector, could and should look like in the next sort of 10, 15, 20 years in terms of longer term vision, around a number of different factors. And then it's recognising the various different policies. And what's really key within government is to make sure that the commercial function and the policy function, that they work shoulder to shoulder. So when policy is being created, that commercially are inputting to those policies, and because that in itself will allow the right products and the right ability and drive the right agenda into the supply chain and really move and change markets forward. And I believe that things like the prompt payment, things like the modern methods of construction, if you look at that within the construction industry, those type of policy decisions have really helped address some of the sector issues, and then are built into the contracts themselves. So looking at, we talked around whole life cost, that's under the construction sector deal. So you can read underneath the policy, but then the commercial solutions are about the practical application of actually getting these things done.
Wow, Sam. And these policies that are prepared, Sam, will there be an industry engagement, and how does the policies are built, Sam?
Yeah, so the policy function, this is something that prior to me joining government was a bit of a mystery to me, but actually I think over the time that I've spent, just got huge respect for the policy guys in terms of ministerial commitments, manifesto commitments within government, and really taking those manifesto commitments and actually deploying them through policy, through legislation, in order to get things changed and to sort of really move that dial. And I think with the added bonus of actually having the commercial colleagues and the policy colleagues complete alignment, the practical application and the implementation of those policies, certainly I've seen in the last, circa short of 4 years, has been incredible in the pace of that and the ability of it actually getting those policies implemented and actually on the ground.
Wow, Sam, I think now it started to connect the dots for me, Sam, as well.
Yeah, no, I don't think enough is explained sometimes about the landscape and the difficulty. I think sometimes maybe is it too difficult, and maybe so, but I think actually the navigation of that is really important. And can you get things done in government? Absolutely. You can, sort of agnostic within that.
Oh, yes, Sam. So in your buildings category, Sam, there are many frameworks, as you mentioned, Sam. What was the first framework that you had full-fledged involvement on, Sam?
I think the first framework for me was the FM marketplace, which was the new FM framework, and I think that broke down some barriers. We really heavily engaged with the marketplace. It was the creation of a new digital platform, which was able to be launched. It also created a whole different marketplace sort of post the sort of Carillion downfall and some of the market's issues that the FM market has had, and has really brought in a number of SMEs and really allowed government to contract not just with tier 1 suppliers but tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers. And I think that the ability to be able to sort of break down and truly understand that we don't want to do these, mega contracts. It's about what is it that department needs and what is the right contract. And that framework really was the sort of toddler, as I call it. And now the next generation of that framework is being looked at under market engagement and will really move us forward. But it's about getting the right commercial product that can be delivered at that time, and there's always improvement, and I think it's always about looking in the mirror and looking at ways that we can improve it. And I think what we've done over the last few years is really engage with the industry, and we already know what the next generation of framework will look like, and that market engagement has started already. I think the other one that particularly is something that wasn't even in creation when I started in government, and this was pre the Carillion element, was the construction framework, the £30 billion construction framework that CCS successfully awarded back in 2019 October. And that's something that from the embryo of that was something that we have built on, and it brings everything that I've just talked about. It brings about specification, need, it brings the best of programme management, project management, brings together in an alliancing, in a collaboration, and actually sets the tone and sets the mood, not just of the industry, but also allows government as a client to really step up and really come to the party in terms of delivering these big construction projects. So I'm particularly proud of starting that and then leading that and getting to the completion of that in October last year. It was a massive piece of work. And I'm really, really proud that the first award under that framework was to a SME, and it was a demolition. And I think that just shows the difference between the perception of mega Cabinet Office £30 billion framework and the first award being a very small SME. And some of the feedback from the SMEs it's been the simplest and most engaging procurement that they've experienced. So I'm really, really proud that that's something. Now we just need to, get using that more, get injected that more, and be energised and spread the good practice across the whole of the civil service.
100%, Sam. I think that's a pretty, as you rightly mentioned, it's such a complex thing, isn't it? From start to end, if we look, from to convert into specs, and then we need to make it relatable to the public bodies who are going to
very much so.
So how many people are there in your team, Sam? How, on a day-to-day basis, what does you as a commercial director do? And let's talk about your team.
Okay. Yeah, so my team is, I love talking about my team, that they're a great team. They consist of 120 people. and they're split into various different roles. I have my operations team, who look after the sort of heartbeat of the pillar. I have my commodities and innovation team, who are absolutely experts in anything, from a commodity to energy and trading for the whole of the public sector from an energy perspective. I have my energy team, who look after all the multitude of products and category strategies, and they're always pushing and driving forward, working really closely with BEIS on the net zero carbon, looking at data and evidence. I have my construction team who look after something like whether it be building materials, whether it be engaging with MHCLG on sort of some of the outcomes in getting high-rise buildings better in relation to that, and obviously my workplace team, which can be FM. And then the beauty of that is how they collaborate and how they work together to build solutions for the actual public sector. So I think they're a team to be proud of, and a team as I'm leaving in 9 days' time, a team that will move forward and have all the right ingredients to be able to support the public sector and the wider public sector in these category areas a lot further.
I'm sure they're going to miss you, Sam.
I will miss them. Yeah, they may not miss some parts of me.
Definitely, Sam. And you also mentioned that it's, as a whole, you have the facilities management framework, the construction framework, Sam. What other frameworks that's their part of your pillar, Sam?
So obviously there's the energy, supply of energy framework. So we have the supply of energy framework, and that in itself is a critical framework to government. Circa £1 billion in relation to that framework in terms of what we're doing across that. We've also got water, utility, consultancy related to construction and energy and property. Also recognising that we've got estates management within that, and criticality to sort of cleaning and linen and laundry. So there's a number of various different elements, but what's clear is all of them are under the umbrella of the asset to operate. So we can literally put those frameworks in terms of build. Are they an OPEX cost or are they a CAPEX cost? And we can really try and bring together those elements to give a solution. And what's really important is how we bring those supply chains together. So when we get an FM supplier and a construction supplier and an energy supplier in a room and actually start talking about how they can start to fix some of the problems, I think that makes it, really real good magic happens, would be my view. We're not an island. We won't succeed just sitting there on our own in our own industry experts. We need to bring in other experts in other fields and respect each other in that way.
Wow, Sam, that's very powerful, Sam. And is there any, just a follow-up question on that, Sam, is there any kind of regular forums that Crown Commercial Services organizes, Sam? Is it available on the web or something?
Yeah, we do lots of webinars, we do framework updates, we do a lot of thought leadership in a number of different sectors, so you'll get a number of the different directors. We hold category expertise workshops for any sort of public servant effectively can join those. And we really do engage on a sort of supplier relationship management in terms of the supply chain, but equally we hold a lot of seminars and market engagement seminars for a number of the different public bodies, both sort of wider public sector as well as central government. We're sort of agnostic to that sense. And I think one of the things I do think we do is we try and hold the mirror up to ourselves a lot, recognising that the differences within the departments, and then the differences in terms of being local government versus central government as well, very much so.
Yes, I think you're right, Sam. I think everybody is constructed to serve for different reasons, and collaboration happens, and it happens in its own time. But you know what? It's great to see lots of collaboration. And recently, CCS partnered with MOJ and also DIO on their procurement. That was can you share that journey, Sam?
Yeah, we did, and I think it's a journey that I'm particularly proud of, and I think it's a journey with MOJ and DIO, and the principle behind that is not everything has to be invented here, and actually by collaboration and building relationships, and building those relationships as a commercial function and as commercial professionals within those organisations, we brought the best people within those topic areas to be able to really develop and really scratch what was needed and what was required in the different areas. Some people wanted certain terms and conditions, some people wanted others. And again, I think it just emulates and backs up what I was saying before, is that what CCS is there to do is not to tell departments what they need. That's up to them to decide what they need in that element. What we're there to do is to give them a platform and an environment and stage to be able to operate on a fair and transparent basis. And I think that certainly the products that we've come up with in terms of MOJ and DIO really help the sector, certainly the construction and the FM sector, in understanding the visibility and the expectations and understanding the difference. Government sometimes is criticised, the same supplier can be operating so differently across different different departments, and it's about how do they do that in a constructive way, and actually how do we help them understand why the difference is there.
Yes, it's a journey, Sam, as you rightly said. There are thousands of similar frameworks what Commercial Services has across public sector. I think some way or the other, I think we have to encourage the public bodies to use CCS frameworks, or use CCS to draft their frameworks to make it customized for them. Sam, do you have any insights on that, Sam?
Yeah, I think there's a number of PBOs, and they've been set up for the reasons that they feel that those are set up, and that's fine. Certain public bodies within there, I suppose, where one of the lessons learned, some of those PBOs that we need to work alongside, and we need to partner alongside them, is to try and support industry as much as we can in certain sectors. No one benefits from copying and pasting existing frameworks that already exist. Nobody benefits from that. But if there's new innovations and there's new areas and new ways and challenging each other to be the best we possibly can be, I'm a great believer in some elements of a form of competition is a good thing. It keeps us clean, keeps us on the basis of the ability to be able to drive for the great results, and I think that has supported, and some of the partnerships that we've had with some of the PBOs have really brought that and really engaged betterment to the markets that they operate in.
Definitely, Sam. Sam, also regarding contract management as a whole, Sam, recently there's lots of training programs that central government contract managers, commissioning people are going through, and that's been given to others as well. Do we have this training or commercial guides or self-help guides that the wider public bodies can utilize, or third sector pseudo bodies can utilize, Sam? Is it available somewhere?
Yeah, so the government commercial function of which I work for actually has the assessment centres and the accreditations within that, and the contract management training and the modules that are attached to that. I would hugely advocate as an area of which the wider public sector as well as central government should certainly look to or seek to see for the guidance within that. There is a number of different, learning and development opportunities, and contract management is certainly one that I think across the public sector that we need to improve and we need to get better on, and that's why there has been a lot of investment, a lot of time and accreditation attached to that contract management training, and the modules within that contract management training as well. So, not just the different forms of contract, but the different products and services and how they are contract managed. And with contract management, obviously there's the different subsections, of which like risk management is one of them. And again, that's something that the commercial profession is advocating to get far more improvement in that space.
Definitely, and sometimes sitting in a local council or an NHS trust as a procurement person on your own might be lonely.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's where I think CCS is so much more than just a framework factory, as it's been referred to before. I would absolutely advocate it as, if you don't know an answer to a question, CCS is always a good place to go to try and find out where does that sit and how do I get involved in that. We have a customer service directorate within CCS, and there's some fantastic professionals in there that are commercial professionals as well as customer focused. And the first port of call should be, if there's any questions, even if it's not about using a framework, but there's some local authorities that need that support, then please ask the question. And I'm sure that if they've not got the answer, they'll perhaps be able to support in where the answer sits and resides.
That's brilliant, Sam. And that information is available in our website, Sam. People can
it's available on the website, and then obviously we've got a customer service centre, which is available in terms of various different shifts. But there's website and email, and that's monitored and directed and assessed on as well. So we have customer satisfaction surveys. So what CCS is, and I would say has evolved to over the last sort of 3.5 years, is a far more customer-centric organisation than it ever was before. And I think that's what's really gets us to look in the mirror consistently. And customer-centric means not just to the customers, but actually within the culture in CCS. And some of our people surveys and the way that we talk to each other and we collaborate with each other is some of the best in the civil service. So I think that you're not only like that to the fellow customers, but you're also like that as teams, and I think that gives a better customer service.
100%, Sam. 100%. Sam, once the framework goes live, Sam, how do we kind of follow up on whether the framework is being utilized? Do we have any touch points there, Sam? Or
yes. Yeah. So within each directorate and each agreement has a commercial agreement manager who is responsible for that. And some of the big frameworks don't just have one person, they'll have a team of people that support that commercial agreement manager. And they're responsible for not only the administration of that framework and the support of that framework, but they'll work alongside with anybody that wants to use that framework and support them. So they'll work with the supply chain that is on the framework, but they'll also support the customer who's calling off that framework and give guidance and support, and also notify if there's any issues or the supplier themselves has got any issues or any webinars or correspondence or updates, and that person or those people are accountable for that particular framework. And the number of people depends on the size of the framework, really.
Got you, Sam. And regarding the call-off support as well, Sam, do we support any institution that use call-off from the framework? Do we also provide call-off support as well?
It depends on category and it depends on particular customer. But there is the facility of that. But obviously, I would say, depending on what that is required and what is needed, that is definitely something that the individual would want to speak to the various different customer service directorates to better understand of whether that is something that's available within that particular category and with that particular spend and call off, because some of that can be related to capacity at the time and pipeline ultimately, which isn't always very clear across every single department in government, basically. So it's not quite an easy answer. But it ultimately, dependent on the actual category, I would say it varies.
Got you, Sam. I'm following up on the pipeline element, Sam. I think every framework comes with its own pipeline, Sam. Sometimes before you bid for a framework, you assume that all the opportunities are going to come. Sometimes it won't, Sam. From the Crown Commercial Services, Sam, how do we build our internal pipeline, Sam, before framework, during the framework, and how often do we share that with the framework providers?
So each product that is built, so whether it be a framework or a DPS or a commercial agreement of some sort, has a business case and has to satisfy that business case in terms of how that department and that departmental engagement is done before the product is even goes out for OG. So the pipeline might not be completely cemented, but it's known, and the departments are known. So if I take, for example, the FM marketplace and the construction framework, we knew that the pipeline from the various different departments would be going through that framework, and therefore we were able to talk to the various different suppliers of the impact of that pipeline and how that capacity would work. So I think that's how it's built. So it's built well before any of the suppliers have bid for it. We don't build the pipeline afterwards. What we do find is that as we're in building it, we will have more pipeline that will come in, and therefore there may be variances and changes of time on pipeline as well. So that commercial agreement manager is managing that pipeline, and they will issue out to the suppliers on a regular basis that pipeline. And I think that's been really well received and supported from both the FM market and the construction market, for example. I mean, the construction pipeline has only just been issued today from the IPA, and that recognises some of the routes to markets within that. So pipeline is definitely something that government recognises in certain sectors is needed in order to keep it alive.
Thanks, Sam. That was very useful. Sam, structuring the framework, Sam, as you rightly said, even the FM marketplace and also construction framework, made it to a certain extent, SMEs and medium-scale companies have, to a certain extent, had a level playing field there. How can we further improve the amount of government spending with the SMEs and VCSEs, Sam?
I do think, speaking from someone who looks after a number of different categories, SMEs have to be in that strategic thinking. You have to build a product. It's not about doing it as part of the evaluation. It's about building a product that gets, SMEs onto frameworks. What I find is that a number of the projects, if I look at the across buildings pillar, have got a number of SMEs who are actually on the frameworks. So we're getting real success that the strategies are the right strategies because they're creating opportunities for SMEs to be able to get on the framework. And then it's about winning work on that framework and matching it to pipeline and making sure that they're successful on that. And that's something where, I used the example before about the £30 billion framework and making sure that the right type of work and the right type of project, and it's around programme and project management of the actual projects themselves are recognised, and how they are bundled and put together will give greater opportunity for SMEs. So actually doing huge programmes of work and the exposure of that and the risk of that for SMEs is not something that's helpful, but actually if we are able to bundle it up in such a way that gives them the ability for that, then 9 times out of 10 they will be successful. And I think things like competitive edge, overheads, etc., is something where we're really noticing the difference in terms of that SME, and the ability to be agile and bring innovation to products as well.
Definitely, Sam. Definitely. I think there is always this initial hurdle to go through, but once you go through, then then you know how you have to go forward.
Yeah, and I think certainly the SMEs that I spoke to during the procurement, in terms of how the experience was for them when they went through the procurement process, they look back now and go, we were communicated to, we were told, because where some of the SMEs sometimes don't have the big teams, they don't have the big marketing budgets, but it's about helping them help themselves to a certain extent. And what we did do with a number of different market engagements away from procurements, we hold webinars so that people actually understand what the EU procurement rules has been, how they have to bid, what does that look like, what does that shape like. So that's something that we do independently. And we work really closely with Claire Dove in the Cabinet Office to get that sort of recognition and to get the challenge to make sure that we're holding ourselves to account in those ways as well.
Definitely, Sam. So Claire maybe in a couple of weeks to the podcast. I will let you.
Yeah, no, it'd be great. It'd be great to sort of speak to Claire and see how, in certain category areas, how we've worked with her and ask for her guidance and support in order to make sure that we do link in. It's important that perhaps people don't recognise that we do all talk to each other, and we are really supportive, and that policy driver really does focus and happen at the roots of implementation, most definitely.
Oh, definitely, Sam. So the outsourcing playbook version 2 also was released like a couple of weeks ago, Sam, or maybe last week.
The 10th of June. Yeah.
You.
I do. I remember the date. Yeah.
Yes, Sam. So, I think, yes, everybody is on a journey here, Sam, post Caroline and post this, issues with other big outsourcing companies here.
Yes.
How are the principles of policies outlined in theory are actually applied in practice in our frameworks and in our contracts?
So what will happen again? The outsourcing playbook is something that we've been, integrated and worked and fed into, and members of teams have, been part of that team and part of that work. And we're really keen to make sure that the implementation of those principles reach reality effectively and are on the ground in the contracts that we serve. So not only are they then built into business cases in terms of those terms and conditions, we have gateway processes and in terms of approvals, and at those gateway processes, those questions are asked. So there will be, and there will continue to be, some frameworks that are out there that people could point to and say that they don't align with the principles of the actual playbook. But it's about as those products get renewed ultimately, then the principles of those playbooks will fall through ultimately. There's no sort of golden nugget on one day. The principles of the playbook will all apply, and it's all going to be on one day. Everyone accepted, as well as industry accepted at the time when we were talking, that this would end up being a gradual process of integration. And I think we are seeing them on the ground now. Some of the call-offs and some of the frameworks being awarded that are absolutely compliant with the principles of the playbook. So I think yes, it's in there, but actually it's just going to take some time in terms of the application onto the ground to get those projects and those principles aligned.
Yes, Sam. I think we're on the right shape now with Brexit, and there is a new way of procurement.
Yeah, we can definitely. And I think the procurement rules reform work that we're currently working on as well will equally add to some of the value and some of the acceleration of some of the work that a lot of commercial professionals have wanted to do for some time.
Yes, Sam. Do you have any insight, Sam? What is some tenders have been procured without any procurement process and stuff. There's some concerns around the process and any insight?
One of the things I would absolutely pride ourselves on at CCS is that we have the procurement process, we follow the regulations. Our procurement operations team at CCS hasn't undergone any challenges on that basis, and I think that record itself does sort of speak volumes on that basis. One of the things since COVID has been brought to mind is that some of the great work that CCS actually did, and I'm not sure whether people perhaps realised, was the management of the number of supplier offers in the end, and that we ended up having to handle and lent in and supported various different departments on that, and the ability to be able to get back and have a catalogue. So we had a COVID-19 catalogue, which is on the CCS website, which talked around some of the offers that were sent to us ultimately, and that in itself, I think, shows our agility and our ability to be able to sort of sense check industry when they're coming to talk to government and give them an open door to that extent.
Definitely, Sam. I think you nicely kind of moved to the COVID thing. So when the lockdown happened, Sam, suddenly, in late March, were you
yes.
somewhere, Sam, or where were you?
I was actually in our Liverpool office at the Capitol building in central Liverpool, and my primary concern was my team and the wider CCS and the people, because let's recognise within COVID-19 a huge positive that has come from COVID-19, and I hope it continues in society, is about caring about people and being kind to each other. And my honest first thought was, right, we just need to make sure that everyone's safe and they get home safe, and recognise that people were worried, before we actually said that we were going to go in lockdown, that there were people that were worried, people that were scared. There was all sorts of, sort of people's feelings within that. So that was my ultimate place. I was in Liverpool, and then I came home. And then when I got home, and you sort of reflect on that, the first sort of 6 weeks of COVID were quite relentless, quite hard, quite tough, in terms of not just the workload, but actually, trying to ensure that everyone was safe and within the team. My priority was to make sure, so I put daily calls in with my management team at the very beginning, because I wanted to know how everyone was in my team, and was everyone staying safe, and was everyone okay, and then obviously the health and well-being, to make sure that people have the environments to be able to work safely as much as possible. So that was my sort of initial COVID response, and then got into more of the operationally deliverable, and then moving to more strategic and future looking. So yeah, that's how it evolved.
Yes, Sam. What did you see that was happening there inside the Crown Commercial Services, Sam? The initial.
What I saw was an organisation, and an organisation that I'm proud to sort of sit on its expo, was an organisation that actually had all the right equipment and all the ability to be able to help and support and lean in, and that didn't matter whether you were a small council or a huge department. We had the products and we had the services and the agility and the right experts to be able to lean in and support and offer solutions, and even solutions that didn't exist. We stood up a catalogue in a 10-day period. We stood up a sort of return to work supplies catalogue in 10 days in terms of technology. The agility and the ability of the people that work at CCS that were able to do that, I think, is a real credit to how the organisation has moved forward and put itself in the place to be able to be there, whether it be in a crisis or whether it be in strategic thinking. We have the ability to do both of those.
Yes, Sam, that's amazing, Sam. So, Sam, I know you care about your team, Sam, but how are you coping with this 3-month isolation?
Yeah, I mean, on a personal level, I have my mum who has various different medical issues and was isolated. Personally, yes, sort of, caring for her and being worried for her on a personal note is something that is there constantly, and making sure that my boys were okay. One came back from university, was safe, and making sure he was okay as well, and the youngest who is at home. So yeah, on a personal level, I think sometimes it also taught me, as much as I'm worrying about everyone else, that you need to also take care of yourself in order to make sure you can take care of those that you love. So yeah, I found my running shoes again is my release. So that's helped. That's definitely helping my mental well-being, most definitely.
Definitely. How is the homeschooling coming along, Sam? Do you do?
I'm very lucky because the boys are the age they are. They're 21 and 17. I'm very fortunate that I've not had to be part of the gang, which I've witnessed so many of my team doing in trying to juggle homeschooling and working and juggling lots of multiple things. They're pretty independent when it comes to studying, and my eldest has finished his finals at university, so it's down to him now, basically.
Nice, Sam. So, Sam, as you rightly said, everybody came together, regardless whether they are government, whether they are, citizen, to do this, Sam. What have you observed lately during this COVID crisis that reminded you that people are kind? Any standout stories from your team or from extended?
I just think, it never ceases to amaze me, the ability of, I live in, as I said to you, I live in Cheshire, I live in a little village, and the amount of people who are in isolation, friends of my mum's or people that I know in the village who have lent in and made masks and dropped it off, people who have just left, children's toys and books at the front of their houses for just people to take, just the consideration, the sharing and caring of people doing shopping and people who live on their own, and the ability to, knock on that person's door in a sort of safe way, but also try and help and lean in. I think the use of technology for those, to try and get away from loneliness has been fantastic. And certainly when I look for my mum, the kindness in being able to see her, sort of younger grandsons has been amazing. And had she not had that technology, I'm just not sure that the lift would have been there. So I think it's things like that I've really seen that kindness and the best of human beings coming out.
Oh, that's beautifully said, Sam. Sam, I think we touched a lot about your professional career, Sam. Just tell us 3 things not many people know about you.
Oh, crikey. 3 things. So I think people don't know about me is that when I was younger, I did swim for Cheshire. So I don't think many people know that. I don't tend to advertise that fact. So I do think that that's something that not many people know about me. I think I've got a real sort of fairness. So things like, sort of bullying or people exerting position onto people is something that maybe people don't realise that that's a value of mine that really emulates to the top. And I think the fact that I am a complete and utter chocoholic, I think they would be probably a bit of a feeling one, a bit of a food one, and emulate. So they would be probably 3 things that people don't necessarily know about the Sam in the surface of what they see.
Oh, wow, Sam, that's interesting, Sam. So outside work, Sam, and your boys, what are your hobbies and interests?
I think, my husband and I love walking our dog. She's absolute pleasure, a Cocker Spaniel, Jess. We love walking her. We love going out to countryside, and when we're allowed out from beyond, walking from our house, we'd go to various different places to go and do that. We enjoy running, we enjoy travelling, albeit we can't do it at the moment. And just seeing family and friends, really, and having what I call real quality time with family and friends, and not rushing, actually having time to talk and laugh. Ultimately, that would be my ultimate aim.
Definitely, Sam. What's the name of your dog, Sam?
Jess.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Postman Pat Cat, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. If you ask Jess for a reference.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think Jess will tell about you?
God, what a great question, Pascal. I think she'd say, I wish you'd sit down more because I'm always on the go. Right. I think she would say I'm kind because she always comes to me if she wants food. So that tells me on whose does that. And I think she'd say I'm very loyal to her. They would probably be 3 things, as in I will, clip her and even did her hair during lockdown to the best of my ability, which wasn't brilliant. So I do think that that's what Jess would say about me, bless her.
Oh, that's nice, Sam. Sam, if you were right enough specs in contracts, Sam, if you were to write a book about yourself, what would you name?
Oh, crikey. Um, what would I name it? I'd probably name it, She Tried. And that's just coming straight from my head. I've not really thought about that in some ways, but I think no one could ever blame me for not having a go. You know, whether that be, you know, supporting people, whether that be supporting family, children, husband, you know, within the role that I do, within the wider civil service. You know, whether she tried or she cared, either of those two, for me, because that's what comes from the real, you know, underneath it, and that would be, I think, if I look back at my late dad, of what my dad would say about me, and that really matters to me, is I think that's what he would name it if he had to name my book.
Wow, that's a brilliant title, Sam. Definitely you should consider that. Sam, if you could be anywhere else right now, where would you be?
Yeah, and I thought about this, and I think to myself, I'm happy where I am right now. And why is it? Because while all this COVID is on in the world, what matters to me the most is the safety of my family. And knowing I'm at home, knowing that my boys, my husband, my mum, my brother, you know, cousins, are all safe and all well, and all but be it during COVID, I've lost relatives, through sort of natural causes, not through COVID. I feel safe, and knowing that they are safe is really important to me. So I could sit here and say I'd rather be on a desert island, or I'd rather be doing this, but actually being at home and being safe, is really important, and I think these times allow you to value it rather than resent it.
Definitely, Sam. I think beautifully said. That tells a lot about you, Sam. So, so what's the most courageous thing you have ever done in your life?
Probably courageous. Do you mean adventurous or courageous? I think probably go on a zip wire, across, a very wide sort of ravine, and dangle my legs, and just let go and scream very, very loud, is probably something that I feel was courageous. When my husband chickened out, so I always say that was courageous, because I'm quite competitive, so therefore I wasn't going to give up. So I did it, which probably says a lot, going back to the book question. But if I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it. Oh. So I think I'm courageous. Although I was frightened to death, I still did it, and I still would, to be honest. That's where I am.
That's it. So what do you cook better than anyone in your family?
Oh, crikey. I do a really, really mean tuna and egg pie, and a really, really mean cheese and onion pie. I'm good at pies. Oh. Good winter cold food. That's me.
Brilliant, Sam. So next time when I meet you, Sam, you know, bring
yeah. Pies. If you ever need a pie, yeah, that's it. Definitely.
So what's something you have that is of sentimental value to you?
Probably there's two things that you know, if I could grab them if the house was on fire type stuff. One I wear with me all the time, which is a ring that my dad bought me for my 18th birthday. My dad didn't do shopping and didn't like shopping, but he actually took me out, just him and I, and we had a really lovely day. Went out for lunch, and he bought me a ring, and I wear that every day. So that's huge sentimental value for me. So that's one thing. And the second thing would be something that my grandma left me, and it's not valuable, but it's valuable to me. and it's a little television that you open the drawer, and it still works to this day, and it has a lady who plays a guitar on it. And as a little girl of the age of about 2, I loved playing with it at Grandma's house. And I've got that now in my house, and it just brings really lovely memories of her, basically. And she was a great lady, a fantastic lady, and it just makes me smile, basically.
Ah, that's so beautiful, Sam. Sam, are you a morning person or a night person?
Morning, every time.
Oh, okay.
Every time I get up early, I take my dog for an early morning walk. That wakes me up, and I'm at my best in the morning, definitely.
Got you. So, what movie or a book character are you most like?
Gosh, I've absolutely no idea. I really don't know that one. I really don't know that one, unfortunately. I'd probably say movie character. Probably Tomb Raider or something like that. That, you know, independent, sort of competitive, and anything that comes my way, and I need to defend my family. That's what I'll do, basically.
That's nice, Sam. So, if a genie granted you 3 wishes, what wishes would you ask the genie for?
Oh, crikey. Genie. Just everyone across the world just to just be at peace with one another. Just live with each other in a better way. And so it's not about me, just to live in a world where we all respected one another and loved the difference with one another. That would be a fantastic wish. To be honest, I don't think I'd need the other 2 if that happened, because I'd be living in a great place. And yeah, to just not have, children who enter the world in some crappy circumstances, just to sort of really change some elements there as well. But it'd be more about people, and about making life and society an easier place for some people to live rather than others, and to make it more balanced.
Perfect, Sam. So, who is the kindest person you know?
My mum. My mum is the most unconditional, kind person, and if I've got a little bit of inch of her kindness, then I'd be really proud of myself. I'm not sure I have, but she's just an all-round kind, 100% person.
Have you cried at a movie, Sam?
Oh God, all the time. Yeah, I cry more when it's a happy ending, because I'm so happy that people are happy, than necessarily the sad ones. I do cry at sad ones, but actually you'll get more tears down me because I'm so happy for people. So I cry happy tears as well as sad tears. So, but that doesn't everyone? Doesn't everyone do that?
Of course.
Yeah, my husband doesn't, but that's strange. You've got to cry. A good cry is good for you sometimes.
Definitely, Sam, 100%. So, what trait do you like the most about yourself?
I'm straight talking. I say as it is, and it'd be good if I respect that in myself, and therefore I like that about myself.
Definitely, Sam. That's straight. So, who are the people who have been the most influential in your life and career?
Craigie. I've already mentioned my grandma, who was a youngster I idolised, because she was just a strong, independent woman, who drove ambulances in the war and did not stand any messing, and just brought up her own small business, and just was an entrepreneur in herself for her day, and her era was just fantastic. So I'd probably say she's a great admiration. And then I think in my career has been, probably one of my first bosses when I was at Geigy, and unfortunately he's not around anymore. But just a great person who took time on me and listened to me, ultimately really listened, and guided, and intervened, not all the time, allowed me to make mistakes, but actually intervened and supported and coached, and truly taught me the definition of what a true coach is. So I think they're probably one personal one and one work one.
Oh, that's nice, Sam. So what random stranger has had the biggest impact on your life?
Probably one time when I was coming home from London, quite recently actually, in the last 2 years, and I happened to be running from London, going back home on the Virgin Pendolino, which was an often situation, and the train was absolutely packed, and there was just a chair, and a lady was sat there, and I started to do some work, and the lady started to talk to me, and in the end I just shut my computer down and listened to her, because it was evident that she wanted to talk. And actually what she wanted to talk about is the fact that she was dying, and she wanted to be able to tell her daughter, and she wanted someone to bounce off her of how she was going to have that conversation with her daughter. And I just felt hugely honoured, and humbled that I told myself off that you need to take the time sometimes, and sometimes you're there for other people, and other people might just need you, and I think that it just taught me a lesson in life sometimes. You should never be too busy, because you never know what's going on in somebody else's life, and it could randomly be that I just was meant to sit on that seat at that day. So I think sometimes with strangers, don't be too consumed in yourself, because actually sometimes yourself can help somebody else.
Wow, Sam, that's wow.
I often wonder how that went, if you know what I mean. But there you go. Lovely lady, lovely lady.
You're making me cry now, Sam.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it was a real life conversation, And she had a daughter, probably a couple of years younger than me. So if I manage to help that conversation, then I'll feel as though I've helped, if you know what I mean, because that's what's important.
You're definitely blessed, Sam. What's the best piece of advice you've received, and from whom?
I'm gonna go with my grandma again, because I've got a bit of grandma love going on here. So, Samantha, it's really important in life that you know yourself, you like yourself, and you're very true to yourself.
Wow.
And I think they're the three things that on life's journey, it's really important that you really truly do know yourself, and you learn to like yourself and live with yourself, but also stay true to who you are. And I think if you follow those principles that she's given me as guidance, you'll live a far more contented life.
Wow, Sam, that's super powerful. So looking back, Sam, I know a successful industry career, beautiful family, successful civil service career. Now you're going to head up the Home Office, Chief Commercial Function as well. If you could list some of your key achievements, Sam, what could they be?
I think my personal achievement is marrying my husband and having two beautiful sons, and bringing them up in the world. I think is a key personal achievement. And I think my key work achievements are that throughout my career, I hope to, and have been fed back to, that some of the people that I've either led or supported or coached or mentored have gone on to some great things, and some great places. and I just hope that a little bit of imprint is passed, and I continue to do that. And they're the achievements that I personally feel that if there's anything that people can take away from maybe some of the mistakes I've made, or some of the learnings or lessons that I've made, and other people are able to benefit from that, then that makes me happy.
Oh, nice. I wish my wife said the same about this.
My husband's probably listening now.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Yeah.
So what's one thing you wish you had known when you began your career, Sam?
I think I just wouldn't have put I wish I'd known that there will be barriers in the way, and self-doubt will always come and hit you. That the cloud of self-doubt will always come and hit you. And I wish I'd tell my younger self to, how to overcome that self-doubt and criticism of oneself a lot quicker. I think it's good to have, consciousness, etc. But I think sometimes I'd give myself a less of a hard time in relation to some of that.
Oh, nice, Sam. Sam, what's something that you are looking forward to in the future? Next steps for you?
Oh, crikey. I'm really looking forward to joining the Home Office, meeting a whole new team, a whole new agenda, and genuinely really supporting the Home Office agenda. I'm walking into it excited, great nerves, but nerves positively. I'm just really looking forward to being part of the leadership team there, and being part of leading the commercial function, and recognising the commercial function to deliver excellence and to really make a difference within the Home Office deliverables.
Oh, Sam, that's I'm sure you'll be a star here, Sam, because working in immigration, as you said, it's more of a heart than actual numbers. But you as a person, I think it's a win-win. I think for you and for Home Office.
I hope so. I hope so.
So, Sam, is there any part of your life or career that we haven't touched, Sam, or is there anything else you want to say to the listeners?
No, I'd just say, thank you for listening. It's quite humbling when you sit down and question yourself and look back on your life. I think it's important to do that sometimes, and I'd probably encourage people actually just take that time out and look back on what you have achieved in life sometimes, because I think looking back and looking in that rearview mirror sometimes is a good thing to do, to allow you to move forward. So I'd just say huge thank you for the time and an opportunity to you, Bhaskar, in supporting and asking the questions here.
Thank you so much, Sam. For me personally, Sam, it's been a privilege to have you with us. As I mentioned, it just started like 3 weeks ago, bringing in kindness in the industry, especially there are so many people from so much institutions are pulling it together. I'm privileged to have you here, especially I was my first female guest as well.
Oh, brilliant. And northern and female. Two things I'm proud of.
Exactly, Sam. So wish you and your Crown Commercial Service colleagues and your new Home Office colleagues, your family, everybody, all the good health and happiness. And please continue to inspire everyone around you. And I'm so looking forward to welcome you to Croydon whenever you visit here.
I absolutely will.
Stay healthy, stay happy, Sam, and thank you, Sam.
You as well. Stay healthy and stay happy, and love to the family. Take care.
To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Please do visit baachu.com/Baachu Talk Podcast to this specific episode link to everything that was mentioned in this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, review, and share Baachu Talk Podcast with your loved ones. We will see you at the next episode with another special guest. Until then, it's Bhaskar Sundram from Baachu signing off.